Obi-Wan had promised Yoda he would separate the twins at once. Luke would vanish on Tatooine. Leia would be hidden with Bail Organa. It was the safest path. But when he looked at Padme's children, and then at Padme fighting for breath, something inside him broke. The plan protected the future, yet it destroyed the family before it even began. So he chose another way. Before dawn touched Polis Massa, Obi-Wan wrapped the twins, lifted them into his arms, and ordered a quiet departure. The medical droids protested. Imperial patrols were already spreading across the Outer Rim. Any delay could doom them all. Still, Obi-Wan insisted, Padme deserved one chance to see her children. One chance to live for something stronger than grief. Their stolen ship slipped into the dark, flying without a signal, without a name. Inside the cabin, Padme drifted between life and death. Luke cried first, then Leia. Their voices cut through the silence like tiny sparks in a dead galaxy. Padme's eyes opened. Weakly, painfully, she turned her head. "The babies?" she whispered. Obi-Wan placed the twins beside her. In that moment, the will to die began to fade. Padme touched Luke's cheek, then Leia's hand. Tears ran down her face. But this time, they were not only tears of loss, they were proof that something of Anakin still remained untouched by the Emperor. Obi-Wan saw it happen. Her pulse steadied. Her breathing deepened. The droids changed their readings in disbelief. For the first time since Mustafar, hope returned. But hope carried danger. If Padme lived, the Empire would hunt her. If Vader learned the truth, the children would never be safe. Obi-Wan understood the risk. He had not just saved a mother. He had changed the fate of the rebellion before it was even born. And as the ship vanished into hyperspace, far away on Coruscant, Darth Vader suddenly lifted his head, as if he had heard something impossible calling to him through the Force. Padme should have died on Polis Massa. Instead, the sight of Luke and Leia pulled her back from the edge. Obi-Wan did not trust any hospital, Senate ally, or old friend. Within hours, he hid her inside a forgotten retreat once used by Naboo's family, buried beneath forests and stone. Only a handful of droids knew she was there. Recovery came slowly. Padme could stand for only minutes. Her voice failed. But each day she held the twins, and each day her strength returned. She studied their faces with a quiet ache. Luke had Anakin's eyes. Leia had his stubborn fire. The truth wounded her, yet it also forced her to face something she had refused to believe on Mustafar. Anakin was not truly gone. Obi-Wan told her everything. He spoke of the temple massacre, of the duel beside the lava, of the machine that now kept Darth Vader alive. He expected Padme to collapse under the weight of it. Instead, she listened in silence and asked only one question. Did he hesitate? Obi-Wan remembered the final seconds. Vader had attacked with fury, but beneath it, there had been pain, fear, and something broken. He admitted the truth. Yes. For one moment, Anakin had hesitated. That answer changed Padme's path. She stopped speaking of Vader as if he were a stranger. She spoke his name again. Anakin. Not with forgiveness and not with blind hope, but with certainty. Palpatine had twisted him, used fear, fed anger, and sealed him inside armor and lies. If any part of Anakin remained, then the Emperor had not fully won. Far away, on Coruscant, Vader knelt before his master and tried to bury the restless feeling growing inside him. Palpatine sensed it at once. He pressed harder, demanding obedience again. But across the stars, Padme looked down at her children and made a silent vow. She would not hide from Darth Vader. One day, she would force Anakin Skywalker to hear her voice again. With Padme alive, the plan was dead. Bail Organa still offered sanctuary on Alderaan, and Owen Lars could still hide a child on Tatooine. But Obi-Wan refused to split the twins, while Padme could protect them. Separation might keep them safe. It would also leave them alone, shaped by strangers, far from the truth. This time, Obi-Wan chose a harder path. He built a life in the shadows, using forgotten rebel routes and Naboo loyalists who still hated the new empire. Obi-Wan moved Padme and the twins from world to world. They never stayed long. A canyon shelter on Desix, a weather station on Kashyyyk's moon, a ruined outpost near the edge of Polis Massa. In every hiding place, Padme learned how to vanish. In every hiding place, Obi-Wan learned how to fight like a ghost. Years passed. Luke grew curious, always reaching, always chasing the strange things he could feel but could not name. Leia grew sharp and fearless, watching every face, hearing every lie, and refusing to bow to anyone. Obi-Wan taught them discipline in small ways first: patience, balance, silence. He did not call them Jedi, not yet. Padme taught them something just as dangerous: why people followed tyrants, why fear ruled senates, why truth had to survive longer than armies. Together, they became more than hidden children. They became a promise. Padme began passing messages through trusted allies. Safe houses turned into cells. Cells turned into whispers of resistance. Across the galaxy, broken senators, smugglers, and soldiers started hearing one rumor again and again: the Republic was not entirely gone. But the Force was shifting around the twins, growing louder each year. Obi-Wan felt it in meditation. Sometimes objects moved when Luke was angry. Sometimes lights flickered when Leia was afraid. Their power was awakening faster than he feared. And one night, while Vader stood alone inside his chamber, he felt two bright presences flare across the dark. Not one child, two, and both were Skywalkers. The moment Vader felt the twins through the Force, everything changed. The cold discipline he had built around his pain cracked in an instant. Two children, impossible, yet undeniable. Not rumors, not dreams, blood, his blood. For years, Palpatine had told him Padme died without giving him anything but ashes. Now, the lie trembled. Vader did not report the vision at once. That silence alone was dangerous. Nothing stayed buried now. Instead, he turned the Imperial machine inward. Quiet probes were sent to old senatorial routes. Inquisitors were ordered to watch worlds once tied to Padmé Amidala, Bail Organa, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Records vanished. Witnesses disappeared. Entire villages were questioned because one child had moved an object in fear, or because someone had spoken the name Skywalker too softly in a crowded market. The hunt spread like fire. Obi-Wan saw the pattern first. Safe houses went dark. Couriers failed to arrive. A pilot loyal to Padme was found dead before he could warn them. Vader was not searching for rebels anymore. He was searching for family. That made him more dangerous than ever. Padme wanted to run farther, deeper, beyond every mapped edge of the galaxy. Obi-Wan disagreed. Running forever would only corner them later. They needed false trails, decoys, and allies who could mislead the Empire long enough for the children to grow stronger. For the first time, Padme and Obi-Wan truly began acting like generals in a secret war. On Coruscant, Palpatine felt Vader's focus shifting. Missions took longer. Reports came back incomplete. Rage was no longer his apprentice's greatest weakness. Attachment was. The Emperor smiled at the old wound reopening. He had created Vader through fear of loss. He could also break him with it. So Palpatine gave a new order. Find the hidden children. Kill the mother. Bring Obi-Wan to me alive. And when Vader heard those words, his mask remained still. But deep inside the machine, Anakin Skywalker began to wake in terror and fury. Years in hiding did not make Luke and Leia the same. The Force touched them both, but it shaped them in different ways. Luke looked to Obi-Wan for answers. He loved old stories of the Jedi and the idea that light could survive after defeat. When he trained, He listened. When he failed, he tried again. Obi-Wan saw in him the hope he once saw in Anakin, but steadier, gentler, less ruled by pride. Leia burned differently. Padme taught her politics, strategy, and the power of words that could move armies without firing a shot. Leia learned fast. She could read weakness in a room before adults spoke it aloud. She challenged Obi-Wan, asking why the Jedi had allowed Palpatine to rise, why they had served a broken Senate, and why mercy should be given to enemies who would never return it. Those questions had no answers. As the twins grew older, Obi-Wan's training became serious. Wooden practice rods became lightsaber drills. Breathing lessons became meditations against fear. Luke embraced the discipline. Leia respected it, but never surrendered to it. To her, the Force was not for calm. It was a weapon, a warning, and a way to protect people the Republic had failed. Padme watched the split with pride and dread. Luke carried Obi-Wan's faith in what the Jedi could become. Leia carried Padme's anger at what the galaxy had become. Together, they were stronger than either path alone. Apart, they might tear each other apart. Then the breaking point came. An Imperial convoy raided a hidden refugee camp tied to Padme's network. Obi-Wan wanted stealth. Luke wanted rescue. Leia wanted retaliation. She used the Force in open battle for the first time, crushing a blaster line and turning the attack into a public massacre of stormtroopers. The refugees were saved. But across the holonet, one truth exploded into the light. The children Vader hunted were no longer hiding, and the Empire finally saw Princess Leia Skywalker fight back. Leia's attack on the convoy changed the war overnight. The Empire now had proof that powerful Force-sensitive children were alive. Worlds suspected of aiding Padme were locked down. Inquisitors flooded the mid-rim. Every safe route began to close. Padme knew the truth at once. Hiding was ending. If Vader kept hunting, he would either find the twins or force the Emperor to find them first. There was only one move left that might break the chain. Padme had to face Anakin before Palpatine turned the search into a massacre. Obi-Wan opposed the plan. He had seen Mustafar. He had buried the man Anakin used to be. But Padme had seen something different in those final moments, and Obi-Wan's own words had kept the wound open. Vader had hesitated. That meant the choice was not dead. So Padme set a trap built for memory. Using a Naboo code only Anakin would recognize, she sent a message through channels designed to be intercepted. No rebel names, no coordinates for the twins, only one location from their past and one line. If any part of you remains, come alone. Vader came. On the ash-gray plains of a ruined world, shuttle engines died and silence swallowed the night. Padme stood unarmed beneath broken stone. Obi-Wan waited with Luke and Leia, ready to flee if the meeting failed. When Vader stepped from the darkness, machine and shadow wrapped around him. Even Padme's breath caught. Yet, she did not run. She spoke his name. Not Darth Vader, Anakin. The word hit harder than any blade. Vader froze. Rage rose first, then grief, then something far more dangerous. Padme did not beg. She told him about the twins. She told him they still needed their father. She told him Palpatine had stolen everything, but not the right to choose what came next. Then a second shuttle screamed down through the clouds. The Emperor had followed, and Vader had only seconds to decide who he truly served. The Emperor's arrival destroyed any hope of reunion. Lightning flashed across the ruined plain as Palpatine stepped from his shuttle, smiling because he had found the weakness he wanted. Padme, the children, the last piece of Anakin Skywalker. He struck at Padme first. Palpatine knew love had created Vader, and love could destroy him. Padme barely escaped the first blast. Stone exploded around her. Vader moved on instinct, raising one hand against the Emperor's power while the other reached toward her. That single motion told Palpatine everything. His apprentice was slipping. At once, the trap widened. Imperial troops descended on every rebel channel linked to the stolen message. Inquisitors tracked Obi-Wan's fallback routes. Across several systems, allies of Padme vanished in coordinated raids. Palpatine was no longer hunting survivors. He was cutting out a bloodline before it could become a rebellion with a face and a legend. Obi-Wan felt the net closing before the reports arrived. He gathered Luke and Leia and prepared for flight, but the twins had changed. Luke wanted to save his mother. Leia wanted to strike the Emperor now, before more worlds burned for them. Their argument became a storm of fear, love, and anger that Obi-Wan could barely hold together. Then Padme's signal came through, broken by static and pain. Run. That word ended the debate. On the ruined world, Vader and Palpatine finally faced each other without lies between them. The Emperor called Padme a weakness, the twins an infection, and Anakin Skywalker a dead man. Vader stood silent, torn between years of obedience and the family standing on the edge of destruction. Then, Palpatine made the choice for everyone. He ordered the death of Luke and Leia, and in the same breath, he commanded Vader to prove his loyalty by bringing him their bodies. For the first time since Mustafar, Darth Vader turned his blade away from his family, and the galaxy moved one step closer to civil war inside the Empire itself. With Vader's blade turned against the Emperor's will, the hidden war burst into the open. Palpatine unleashed guards, troops, and fury across the ruined world, but he had already lost control. That break raced outward. Imperial officers received conflicting orders. Inquisitors turned on one another while trying to secure the twins. Rebel cells linked to Padme rose in sudden chaos, attacking supply lines as word spread that the Emperor's enforcer was in open rebellion. What had begun as one family's secret now threatened to ignite a galactic uprising. Obi-Wan brought Luke and Leia back. He knew the truth. This story could not end with flight. It had to end with choice. The battlefield became larger than war. Luke reached Vader first through the Force with trust. He offered the faith Obi-Wan had given him. Leia stood beside Padme and faced Vader with fire in her eyes. She offered no forgiveness, only a future worth earning. Between them stood everything Anakin had lost, and everything he might save. Palpatine saw the moment forming and struck to destroy it. Lightning crashed toward the twins. Padme threw herself forward. Obi-Wan raised his blade. Vader moved faster. For the first time in decades, Anakin Skywalker chose without fear. He took the full storm meant for his children and hurled the Emperor into the collapsing ruins. The blast shattered stone, fire, and throne-built destiny. When the smoke cleared, Palpatine was gone, buried beneath the world he had tried to command. But victory carried a price. Vader fell to his knees, armor burning, breath failing, life spilling away inside the broken machine. Luke begged him to hold on. Leia stood frozen between hatred and grief. Padme took Anakin's hand. He looked at his family, not as Vader, but as himself. And as dawn rose over the wreckage of an empire, the twins faced the question that would shape the next age of the galaxy. Could the children of Skywalker rebuild what their father had destroyed?